Heath Hyatt, Chris Powell, The Truth, the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. We got the gang together today.
I don't know how I got roped into
I like it.
Anything that says the truth behind it, there should not be a hound, a houndsman, or a hound's name behind the truth.
That is true in most cases. I will not debate that. Well, one of the reasons we are here together today is, for one, I want to talk about, I just sat down with the president of the Kansas Houndsman Federation. I know the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance has just come under some new, I want to say new management, but that ain't the way these things that ain't the way these things work. But new management with Bryce Matthews, and of course Jerry Mall is very active in that and stuff. And so we were going to kind of touch on houndsman's rights, your state hound federation, all that stuff. And I thought you guys would be awesome for it.
How was Bryce? I haven't talked to him in a while.
I saw him at the, we had a meeting a week or so ago. I guess it's been a couple weeks ago now.
While you guys discuss this, my healer's outside barking. I got to go let him back in.
All right. Yeah, so he doesn't know where the mute button is for the mic, evidently. But yeah, I saw Bryce a couple weeks ago. We had a kind of a kickoff CPR meeting for the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance, trying to breathe some life back in that thing, and had a really good turnout over at Greencastle. And Jerry and Jeff Morgan and Mike Shepard, some of the existing board officers got together to try to get some interest in getting this thing back off the ground. And the way it all started was Scotty Christian reached out to me last winter and asked what it was going to take to get it done. And the reason for that is because there's just a lot of stuff that affects coon hunters that I don't think a lot of coon hunters think about a lot until it's staring them in the face. But anyway, the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance had another meeting. They elected new officers, new directors. I've been working with Bryce on a few issues, trying to get some things lined out and make sure that it's moving forward. So he's energized. He's got a good board behind him and officers, and I'm looking forward to what they can get rolling again, because it's just one of those deals, man. You get into one of those organizations and you see guys sitting back and people not participating. You send out emails and you try to get things rolling, and it sounds like nobody gives a crap. And so you just lose the fire for it. And for a while, it's like the old rule, church rule. You go to church, 10% of the work, 90% of the work is done by 10% of the people. And it's like that in any organization. But at one time, we ran the numbers for Indiana on coonhounds, and we were over 10,000 registered coonhound owners that had registered dogs with UKC. And the highest number of people that we ever had in membership was like 330 people.
Wow.
And it's like, what the heck are the rest of you doing? Are you guys just here free, riding this train for free? And we're getting stuff done, right to retrieves and felonies for shooting dogs and getting running seasons extended and different things. And when there's a problem, they all wanted to come out and talk about it, but they wouldn't show up to banquets. They wouldn't show up to meetings. You couldn't get people involved, and that's what ultimately caused the burnout with the old board.
Well, you talk about 10,000 registered, coonhound owners. That's not counting the running dog guys, the guys that have retrievers and pointing dogs.
That number might be high. That might have been the total number of registered hounds. It was.
Well, even then, there's over 1,000 at least. Oh, that's bottom line, 1,000.
Yeah.
And so 1/3 of those are participating in this stuff, and that's not enough. And in the past, I've been just as guilty of it as anybody else. We have the Missouri Sporting Dog Alliance, a wonderful organization, but it comes to a point where someone has to just take the bull by the horns and do all that stuff and recruit all those members and do all that things. And a lot of times it's, like you said, a one-man operation. And it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. And usually one guy steps up one or two guys do 90% of the work, and the rest of us just sit back and reap the benefits. And we probably should, change that.
There's no doubt about it. It gets tiring, and state organizations like that. Somebody's putting their own money in their gas tank to drive to Indianapolis for fish and wildlife meetings, and to drive to some of these public hearings and different things like that. And after a while, you just get to the point you're looking at it and you're thinking, what's the use? Doesn't anybody else care, or stuff like that. And you look at organizations like the Wisconsin Bear Hunters Association, they can't pass a deer hunting rule in Madison, Wisconsin without that organization being consulted by the Fish and Wildlife Department up there. That's how well organized they are. That's how much work they've put into it. They've got directors in different regions. They have regional events. I mean, one of their regional events, they can pull in $10,000 to $12,000 in a weekend regional event, and then at their convention, the one year that I was there, they generated $50,000 just from that one event. They've got a full-time lobbyist. They've got sponsorships. They're doing it right. Carl Chattel and his crew up there, I mean, they've got it figured out, and they've positioned themselves in a good way that nothing gets done. You can't pass a squirrel season or a change of the squirrel season without them having their hands on it and having some input on it.
And that's the way it should be, because you look at the Iowa Bow Hunters Association, they have a lot of pull. A lot of trappers associations have a lot of pull, and houndsmen are notorious bickerers amongst each other. We love them. Don't get me wrong. I love all the running dog guys, and I love all the coonhound guys, and all the squirrel dog, bird dog, you name it. Of course, working for Joy Dog Food, I want to make sure and feed every dog on the planet. I don't care what kind of dog it is. But there's a lot of factions between that, Yeah, PKC versus UKC. There's
Walkers versus Blue Tick.
Yes,
Blue
breed factions. Yeah, there's everything. And we have a bad habit of not coming together as a community unless our backs are really against the wall. Now, I'll give them credit when they're really pushed. They're great. They're fantastic. Best bunch of people on the planet. But they have to have a huge push, and sometimes after that push comes, it's too late.
Heath, what do you think? You're sitting there in the heart of it right now with everything going on over there.
I have a lot of thoughts, but we can't.
None that you want to make public.
Some of them I should probably keep to myself. But
this is the truth, Heath.
But I think sometimes we need to be in front of things and instead of behind it. Kind of like what Josh was saying, that we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of bear hunters in the state of Virginia, coon hunters. Y'all were talking about the coon clubs are definitely dwindling. Two of the clubs that I used to hunt at locally don't even exist anymore. But I think that we need to get organized, what you're saying, Chris, and we should be in front of it. We should have a presence, regardless of what's going on. We need to be more involved. And, I told you last year that I was going to make it a purpose for myself to get more involved. So, yeah, I mean, you got to be a part of these organizations, these groups, and be professional and get ahead of it, get in front of it.
I think a lot of it is there's so much. I mean, if you're running for a truck ticket in PKC, you're running a lot of hunts. I mean, you're on the road and you're trying to, and over the course of time of being in that many casts or whatever, then sooner or later there's going to be a little bit of hard feelings develop between some people. Somebody made a bad call, or somebody got away with making a bad call, or whatever it is. And instead of looking at that competition as a competition and the breaks of the game, we internalize that. And then when we see people in these hound organizations, it's like, I ain't getting involved in that thing because so-and-so screwed me out of a cast win down at Logansport 3 weeks ago or last year. And when we internalize that and we carry it with us, And we fail to realize that it's a freaking game that you're playing with the coonhound. But what you're dealing with not getting involved is a termination of the thing that you love to do, the lifestyle, the freedom, all the things that we want to preserve and make sure that we have for the future. We got to stop internalizing all this stuff and put our big boy pants on and get out there and get involved and find out that this guy, I can give you examples. You know, I interviewed Bub Blackwell last week for the podcast, and Bub and I have never had problems, but there's other people that I got to know him through the PKC circuit. I'll give you a good example, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but Judas Bowling. Judas Bowling and I, when I was working, Judas Bowling and I weren't friends. You know, it was a professional thing.
We have a bad habit of not being friends with game wardens, Chris.
Well, I get that. I understand.
And I'm not saying it's a good habit. I did say it was a bad habit.
Yeah. And I get it. And sometimes the game wardens are just as guilty of harboring that bad relationship as anybody. But the point was, now that I've stepped away from that and I'm not in that role anymore, the guy's a hard hunter. His heart's in the right place. I mean, he's doing a lot of good stuff. He's got a big heart. He tries to include people and things, you know. So I've seen a whole different side of that. But if I just ridden on my impressions, if either one of us would have ridden on our opinions from 15 years ago, we wouldn't even talk now.
No. And what we have to realize is that everybody evolves. Coon hunters, as they're coming up through the circuit, like I did at 10 years old, all the way up now till I'm 42. My opinions, my outlook, my everything has changed. And so I'm not the same person I was when I was a little punk ass brat kid arguing with you on a cast. You know, I'm a different guy now, and maybe I'd like to think for the better. That's not always the case, but usually for the better. But we have to put all that petty stuff aside, because I've had guys that I've drawn when I was young. Kurt Ehring's a perfect example. The first time I drew Kurt, I was 16, 17 years old. We weren't a fan. You know, we weren't best buddies by any means. But as I matured and as I realized the value in Kurt and the great things that he can do for the sport, and you know, everything changes, everything evolves, everything's different, and so we can't hold old grudges over a cast. But for one, I look at a cast like Facebook. It's not real life. You know, those same people that are saying things on Facebook are not like that in person. Right. You know, they're everything's different. And so, like, you got a good point. We can't hold old grudges. We can't do that. We have to work for the good of the community as a whole.
The time is now. I mean, there is no more time to kick this can down the road. We've got stuff happening. Maine has just enacted, and you got to understand the dynamics of Maine. Maine is like Vermont. Some of these northeastern states have this public use of private property clause built in to their – Vermont's got it in their state constitution. Maine has always observed it, which means that unless your property is posted, your private property, it's open for public hunting. Maine just passed a deal where it's not open to bear hunters anymore. It's not open to coon hunters anymore. Fox hunters, coyote hunters, all those things. The property owners got together and said, we don't like it, and we're cutting you off. Yeah. And we posted it on our Facebook group, but they even went as far as saying that a hound to be found on a piece of property within the same year time span, then the hunter or the owner of that hound could be cited for criminal trespass. So, I mean, coon hunters, the bear hunters and the lion hunters out west, they get it. They know, they've fought the battles. They've seen, you know, Center for Biological Diversity and the Mountain Lion Foundation and HSUS come after their hunting rights. Oregon and Washington both and California all lost their ability to hunt. And the coon hunters back east here, coons are always going to be a pain in the ass. We're always going to have problems with coon, and our ag community is going to step up and say, control the coons. So they're not going to come after it like that. They're going to.
We also get to do everything at night.
Yeah, exactly. But the antis are coming after our ability to keep hounds, how we house them, how we license them with our county governments, all these little ways to attack our ability to own the hound. Breeding bills. I mean, how many intact females you can keep, how many intact males you can keep, how many puppies you produce. So coon hunters have got to wake up and realize that it's time, man. It's a go time now.
I'm going to give you guys a question here. How much, and I've preached this before, and I know you have, Chris, as well as Heath, how much does self-regulation play into that in our perception to the non-hunting or non-hound owning, now non-hound hunting public? We have to be really good at policing ourselves, I think. And there's a lot of, just as well as I do, especially in the social media age, one bad apple casts a large light on the rest of the community. So Heath, especially out east where you live, how does that affect you guys as far as, you want to make sure everybody's minding their P's and Q's, doing things the right way and all that stuff. And how important is that?
Well, it's funny you said that because I have a small group that we hunt with. There's about 6 of us that have hounds. We have several that follow along. So let's say there's 10 of us. We have talked about policing ourselves to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and taking care of the stuff that we're supposed to be taking care of. I ran into a landowner last weekend that joins the National Forest. And our dogs have treed on him several times, but he's from out of state, and he just happened to be there. I seen his gate open. So when I seen his gate open, I'm driving by. I stop, get out, walk into his cabin, introduce myself, tell him, hey, this is who I am. We hunt here. I know you've got this land here. And I said, I just want to be honest with you. I said, we tree several bear on your 85 acres. And, I want you to know who I am and want you to know that we're coming in and we're getting our dogs and we're leaving. And that if we can ever do anything to help you, here's my phone number. So we are trying to build relationships with the landowners, kind of like what Chris was saying, with what's going on in Maine. And you're saying it too, Josh. And he's had run-ins with bear hunters, and I'm talking about bear hunters. He's had run-ins with them where they just thought they could run over top of him. And in Virginia, as of today, we do have the right to retrieve. That may change in the near future. And we kind of feel like the same thing that Maine passed is probably going to come down to us eventually. So I've told our guys, we have talked about it. I'm sitting around the camp, cooking out, grilling. We camp out a lot together. We have talked about, build those relationships, be nice to those people. And if they tell you they don't want you on there, explain to them just, hey, I get that. I will respect your property. I just need to get my dogs so they're not in there all day and having a heat stroke. So I think it's very important. And I feel like it is very important that we police each other. Now, with that being said, some of the bigger groups that have lots more people, it doesn't happen. And that's what causes most of us trouble. And you guys trouble too, because you come in and you coon hunt and your dog gets on their property and then you're having the same issue I'm having. So I think it should be on the top of the priority list for any hound hunter to be building relationships with landowners and not burning the bridge.
I know that there's a mentality amongst Midwestern coon hunters, and I've shared it. Don't get me wrong. I at one point in time in my coon hunting career, it was, and you'll see it on social media and you'll see it posted. It's yours in the daytime, but it's mine at night. And you see that, and I used to say that and believe that, and believe that it was my God-given right to go wherever I wanted. And then I bought some property. And so we can't, you got to picture a guy, and here I am in the Midwest, right on the Iowa border. I'm in one of the deer hunting capitals of the world. And a guy from St. Louis, he's lived in the suburbs all his life. He's never seen a hound dog, but he loves to whitetail deer hunt. And he works 60 hours a week for a large majority of his life. And then he takes all his hard-earned money and he buys a 40 to 60 acre tract in North Missouri so he can still live in St. Louis and still come up to his cabin on his deer camp and enjoy it with his family and his friends and everything. And I'm all for that. I understand. I realize that he's not wasted. That would be a wrong word, but he's dedicated a large portion of his life to a goal in the outdoors, just like we do. And he don't want to see that affected by some local houndsman that's hunted there all his life until he bought that property and decides that he can turn loose on it again. And so I understand where those guys are coming from. And I don't think a lot of houndsmen do, that these people love the outdoors just as much as we do. And if you educate them correctly and build that relationship, you're going to get permission on that piece of property. I've said before 1,000 times.
At least he's not going to be running you off if you do get over there. He'll understand it.
Yes, and you don't have to say, hey, I'm going to hunt your property and that's it. I've been hunting it for 100 years. Go in there, bring him a big cake your wife made. Stop by the house and say, look, here's what we're doing. We have permission around you. If you don't give permission, I understand. But just don't shoot my dog. Don't come chew me out when my kids are around, stuff like that. It's just, these guys have just as much passion for the outdoors as we do, and we need to appreciate that.
Can you imagine what could happen if a group of 6 guys got together and went, like here where I live, Bear Branch, Indiana, we got a volunteer fire department right up the road here. We got dozens of landowners around here that deer hunt. And I've got a neighbor just like you described from Indianapolis. I mean, I can see his property line right on the edge of my yard from where I'm sitting. And he is a pain in my butt.
Yeah.
But I could do more to build that relationship with him. And I have worked hard to do that. But can you imagine what benefit could be if you could get six guys, half a dozen guys together to pitch in some money, do a cookout, and invite landowners like that while he's down. Opening weekend of deer season, hey, at noon we're going to have a pot of beans and cornbread and desserts and different things. Man, we'd really like it if you come over. We'll feed you.
It's no different than me going to bear camp in Wisconsin and explaining to them the differences in my dogs versus theirs.
Exactly.
They're two different factions. There's two different ways of doing things. They both love the outdoors just as much, but it's different. And they don't understand. It's my job to educate them, and it's all houndsmen's job to educate them, in my opinion.
I'll add something, Josh. You asked the question about policing our own. And, of course, I probably have a pretty extreme view considering my background because I was the police. But and Heath
the federales is what we always call them.
Yeah.
Even if they were a state game warden, they were always the federales.
That's right. That's right. But I've seen a big improvement on social media.
Mm-hmm.
When people make those kind of comments, I'm seeing more people wade in and say, that's a good way to get it all killed. That's a good, and I'm seeing that. We used to see a lot of videos on social media that weren't appropriate.
Yep.
I'm not seeing those anymore. A lot of these admins of these groups and stuff are like, you post that here one time and you're gone. Boom.
And give a shout out to GoWild here too. Their platform, even though it's not as regulated as say a Facebook or an Instagram or something like that, the sportsmen on that platform have been fantastic at regulating themselves.
I'm telling you, man, I have not seen one argument. It seems like you get on Facebook and it's just a license to puff your chest out and start arguing. Yeah. I have never seen that. It's all been supportive.
Yeah.
It's all been Man, nice job. They've done a heck of a job over there.
It's a fantastic platform.
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
I'm posting all of my hound content. Like I pretty much, if you want to go in depth on what I'm doing, I post it on GoWild. I may put something in my story that goes away in 20 hours, but other than that, I don't.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, Josh, you're right. I mean, GoWild is, it's the place to be for your outdoor stuff.
And that's where houndsmen are policing themselves, and sportsmen of all kinds are policing themselves, and it's been fantastic from my point of view.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I just made the public statement a couple months ago. It's like, save Facebook for your grandma or your great aunt that wants to see what your kids are doing, but post all that hunting stuff over on GoWild.
Yeah,
that's the place to post it, and that's my policy as well. I post hunting content on GoWild. I post pictures of my kids and my garden and, different life stuff over on other social media.
Yeah, all the boring stuff goes on the other social media.
Yeah, yeah.
What about educating the non-hunting public? And because that's something that through Joy Dog Food, I travel around and I get to see all the rural places, all the mom and pop stores, all the fantastic parts of America, in my opinion. I mean, it's great. You meet some of the nicest people and the greatest people, but I also run into fur moms that are worried about their Bashan or whatever dog they have. and I'm not good, and I'll be the first to admit, and I've told Wade this and others, I'm not good at relating to those people because I view dogs differently than they do.
They're not humans.
And no, they're not humans.
Yes.
Even I go to the extremists viewing them as a tool, and that's
right.
But that's a terrible word to some people. But I take very good care of my tools. My chainsaws and my 4-wheelers and my wrenches and stuff are all oiled and put up and well taken care of to last a long time. And it's the same way with my dogs. They get the best care. But I don't view them as children, as some people do. And that's the big thing with the non-hunting public is dogs are held on this pedestal that a lot of houndsmen or working dog owners of any kind, I don't care if it's a bird dog guy or a retriever or a police canine or whatever, they're not viewed the same way. You look at war dogs. War dogs are there to save human lives. And that's their purpose. And we appreciate them for it and all the breeding and the genetics and all that stuff that's went into it. But the United States especially has gone so far away from viewing dogs that way that it's hard to express to the non-hunting dog public that it's okay. And don't get me wrong, it's okay to view them as your baby or whatever. You can do that if you want, but don't hate on those that don't. Yeah. So how do we go about educating those people?
I don't know, Josh. Being a trainer, I've had numerous people reach out to me to help train their house dogs, their pets, their babies.
Right. I have to.
And one of the biggest things that I run into is no matter what I show them, no matter what I teach them, they don't want to set boundaries for those dogs. Our dogs has boundaries. We set up, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. I don't know. If you look at a percentage, I don't know how many people that you could actually sit down and have a conversation and be productive. So I just quit doing it. People call me, they text me. I say, you'll have to reach out to Off Leash Canine, which they have one in Blacksburg and one in Christopher. You have to reach out to one of them and do it because I just,
find Caesar Milan and hope for the best.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's that the perception in their mind is it's their baby, and it's hard for them to understand our lifestyle and that this is part of history that we are actually continuing on, because if you look at our forefathers, the hound was a huge part of their way of life. And, and now look at the 20th century, and we're in it, and, we're still doing that, but we're doing it in we don't have to have it for survival, but I mean, it's a way of life for me. Like if you took my hounds away from me, I mean, it would cut a big chunk out of my being, and I'm sure all of you.
Your
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah. I mean, I have other
yeah.
hobbies and stuff, but it's like I said, they're hobbies. They're not a way of life. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
even if it's not the hounds, it's a dog. I never leave my home without a dog. And people don't understand how but I'm still not attached to that particular dog. Am I attached to a breed? Am I attached to a way of life? Sure, you bet. I most definitely am. I'm attached to training canines. I've done it all my life since I was 10 years old when I got my first collie Chinese Shar-Pei cross, and I decided to make it a coon dog. And he did. He would tree the fire out of coons. Now you had to walk him over a lot of them, but he would tree the fire out of coons. But anyway, I'm attached to the training aspect of it, but I don't get attached to the individual. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as you take care of that animal and you give that animal everything it needs to survive and thrive and die of old age, that's more than we can ask for. But the fact that it's not on my couch and not being loved like a baby, which is just an insane theory to me, people lose their minds. And I don't know if that's ever going to change.
This anthropomorphism, the attaching human traits to animals, is a first world problem. Yes. And it's an indication that Americans are living a pretty fat life.
Yeah.
You can still go to places in this world where if we don't catch enough fish tonight, that dog's going in the pot.
Yeah.
That's a real world problem. What we're dealing with is first world problems. And I think it extends to all parts of our culture in the way people view life. Other cultures view life in a different way. We have become a culture of people that thinks we can live forever. Dogs and farm animals are utilitarian type animals for us. And that's not to say that, I mean, I know what it was like when Heath lost Jack last year. I talked to him about it. You were devastated, Heath. You were like,
Christmas Eve. Yeah,
I lost Jack.
Sucked.
Yeah. And it's the pain wasn't any less real for Heath than it was for fur baby mama over here. But when we look at animals, whether it's a ranching community, farming community, whatever, I mean, I've raised it all right here. And those 4-H goats, the night before the sale, when they're getting ready to get on the loading truck the next day and go to slaughter, my girls are out there and they're saying goodbye to their goats. But they also know, and that's going to be food. That's, it's got a purpose in this world, and we've lost that view. Mike Thorman made a comment on this podcast a long time ago that has stuck with me, and he made this statement. He said, the further people get away from the farm, the less they understand animal husbandry, things like that. We lose our view the further we get away from the farm. And to give some background on that, I mean, like in 1800, 75% of our culture was attached. You were growing your own food. You were doing all that stuff. By 1900, that number dropped down to below 50%. And after World War II, it drastically dropped. And now we got 3% of our country that has any ties to agriculture at all. So there you go. That's where we're at in our world. And we view dogs as utilitarian because they do a job for us, but that doesn't mean that the job they're doing for us is not important, that we don't highly value them. I've got friends out west. The way they take care of horses is completely different than the way my wife took care of horses, They depend on that horse for a living. You think they're going to allow it to be sick? You think they're going to allow it to be in ill health? They're going to spend their money, and time and emotional investments and stuff like that. It's not just entertainment for them. This boxer and this pit bull here, they're good entertainment in the house, but the hounds are what I truly love.
And I'm the same way, but still, you look at horses, or we don't view horses as food, which is still mind-boggling to me. A horse looks delicious.
Yeah,
but horses are a tool. You know, a horse in Montana, when I'm out there working or I'm out there bird hunting, and them ranchers are carrying their horses around just like we do a dog in a dog box.
yeah.
You know, that they are a tool, and they take very good care of their tools. If you have a good horse, that a good horse can save your life, just like a good dog can.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take as good a care of it as possible, but we don't attach those human emotions to cattle, hogs, rats, snakes, worms. But we do canines and horses. And I don't understand the difference. I can't fathom it. And I don't know how to educate those who view it.
Well,
that
back
way.
to your original question, you know, I think what you do is, or what we do as houndsmen, is we do the best we can to explain it and explain why we do what we do. And that, I mean, like it blows my mind that Virginia passed a law that if it's below freezing, the dogs all got to come inside.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I mean, it's like, you know, how do I bring 14 dogs in my house? I don't.
Yeah.
I can't, you know. But I feel like you explain it to them the best you can.
2 years ago, during the height of COVID, blah, blah, blah. Hate to even go back there and refer to that time, but we were bear hunting a lot out west. And the national forests were full of people that were out there recreating and stuff. And we meet I think it was a Volvo. You could tell it what.
Or a Subaru.
Yeah.
If it's a fur mom, it's a Subaru.
That's right.
Yeah. My Subaru's got Second Amendment stickers on the back of it.
You know,
Just to know you're not from Colorado, a Colorado
Yeah,
hippie, you
right.
put Second Amendment stickers on it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, Subaru's another one, and I'll never buy a new Subaru because
I'm gonna stop you real quick, Chris, because we went to my sister's wedding in Aspen, and me and the kids drove around and counted the Subarus versus every other car. Now this is hippie Aspen,
Yeah.
where I went and bought some eggs and bacon for breakfast one time, and it cost me half my retirement fund. And I bet you 92% of the vehicles in Aspen are Subarus.
It's horrible.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I've told my wife, I was like, we can't have another Subaru. I can't do this. We bought that.
And they're
Forester.
such great cars. It's disgusting.
It's a 2011 Subaru, 2011. We're going to drive it till the wheels fall off of it.
Yep.
But after that, no more Subarus.
You just have to get a Toyota so it makes you look like a man, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. But I don't even. How'd you derail that whole thing?
I don't know. I heard Subaru and my eyes went red.
Yeah. Oh, I know where I was at. So we meet this car coming up the road, and as you could immediately see, we were bear hunting and dogs hanging outside, and is a family. I was like, "Hey, stop!" Larry Anderson was driving. I was like, "Hey, stop!" I got out, and the guy was scared. I mean, he was like, "What are these guys doing?" You know? And I said, "Hey, what are you guys up here doing?" And he said, "Oh, we're just seeing the sights. What are you guys doing?" I said, "We're bear hunting." He looks up and he sees the dogs. Before it was over, the kids were out of the car. They were up there petting the ears on these dogs. It was all good. And I stopped with that intention because they have this big perverted view that the hounds are ferocious and you can't pet them and they'll hurt you and all this other stuff. So any opportunity that we have, you're passing that trailhead while you're out hunting, pull in there, let them see the dogs. The kids will fall in love. The wives take their pictures. Hey, you want me to take a selfie with you with the bear rig in the background? Yeah, hey, take a picture for you. That is all stuff that we can do.
Yeah.
We shouldn't just drive by or try to avoid this. We have to be intentional in our efforts to educate the non-hunting public. And one of the things that, and I'm going to refer to them again, Wisconsin Bear Hunters does, is they have landowner appreciation dinners in different regions of the state up there. And they come in and it's like, hey, come on in. We're having a big cookout, blah, blah, blah. And you invite these non-hunting people in because 90% of our culture now is non-hunting.
Yeah.
And they invite them in, and they see a different side. It's not that confrontation at 2:00 in the morning, and the guy's standing there in his boxer shorts and holding a gun on you.
There's a million things that we can do. One of the things, because a lot, especially now as we get more urban, even hunters are more urban. There's more coon dogs and bird dogs and stuff in town.
I never thought I'd see flat-billed caps at a coon hunt.
Yeah, exactly. And we love the fact that everybody's involved, but the fact that we are in a more urban society is another reason to do little things like keep your dogs quiet. Don't let your dogs bark all night. Your neighbor is not going to have a positive view of hunting with hounds if you've got that great big mouth dog running its trap all night. Just little things. Keep your dogs quiet. Mind your manners. Pay attention to your neighbors, or your neighbors aren't going to pay attention to you.
The ball's in our court every time, because they're not going to approach you. They're just going to sit back and develop opinions, and it's up to us to develop the narrative, control the narrative. Be out there, be proactive, take advantage of situations to educate, let them see that you've got your kid in the truck. He's great about taking his daughter with him, bear hunting and stuff. And Maggie's right there, and she's a great representative. People can relate to that. You're out recreating with your kids. I'm out recreating with my kids. You've got a common thread. Boom, you got it right there.
And the kids love the dog. I mean, you've hunted with us, Chris. I mean, every one of us bring our kids with us. Like, it's a big party for them. I mean, Maddie wants to know when we're going hunting. She wants to know when season's coming in, and when she can do this and when she can do that. So, having the kids with, which I want my kids with me, but having them with us, it makes a different impression on some people.
Yeah, and I think that bear hunting. And I'll be the first to admit I've very limited, almost to the point of nothing, bear hunting experience. I went for 3 days.
I'm glad you finally acknowledged
but, that. But we go up to Wisconsin. We go to bear camp, and they say we're going to meet at the crossroads at 6 a.m. And at the crossroads in Wisconsin, there were maybe 40 or 50 trucks, and there are 20 or 30 kids, and there are a whole bunch of different parties that are hunting together, but they all meet right there to see where everybody's hunting, what baits they're checking, what area they're going to be in. And it's a family affair. The kids are out there, and I had Bogan last year. He would only have been 3.5, 4 months old. And when I turned Bogan out of that truck, that little red heeler, I bet you I had a swarm of children and wives and things like that over there petting on that dog. And it's a more family-oriented sport than people think.
Well, I get a lot of mileage out of hauling that boxer around.
Yeah.
And I joke around about her being a bear dog. She's not a bear dog. I barely got anything here that's a bear dog. But she's an attention getter. It's like, oh, it's a boxer. When she's sitting
Heath was shaking his head when he said,
I was getting the spray paint out, Josh. When he comes up, I'm gonna spray some white racing stripes in them dogs.
Well, there you go.
He's trying to slow him down so he can stay in the race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that boxer is an attention getter from Houndsman, and it's a dog that the public. It was intentional that I put her in the truck. And I took her to the bear woods, and people would stop. It's like, is that a boxer? Yeah, that's a boxer. And they get out, and she's riding on the rig, and she's all happy. They can relate to that because they've got a boxer at home. Their neighbor has a boxer, whatever. That was totally intentional to start taking her with me.
I've run into some problems with that because Bogan is trained to bite anybody that comes anywhere near my vehicle. And so I have to get him out, set him in between my feet, and tell him he's clear and that it's okay for let these people touch him. But my hounds are because I travel with 1 or 2 hounds and Bogan everywhere I go. And so I have this red heeler. I have the 1 or 2 hounds, depending on how many dog boxes I feel like throwing in my truck. And I'll have the hounds tied out, say at a motel or at a campground or something like that. And they will walk way around the hounds and they will come to pet that heeler that bites like crazy.
Yep.
And so I realize that the non-hunting public is very uneducated about dogs and their body language and how they perceive in themselves. And Bogan has a big vest on him even that says "Do not pet."
That means reach down and grab him.
I found that out, Heath, as soon as I put that vest on him.
We've got caution, police canine. I've got a collar that says "Do not pet." Oh, what a lovely dog! Can I pet him? No, you cannot pet him unless you want to wear him. No.
It's terrible to the point that I'm scared of where I can take him out. And, now that my routes are fairly, even if I'm in Southwest Wisconsin all the way down to Texas, I have certain places I stop where I know I won't run into people, where I can let Bogan free range and not have to put his vest on him and things like that to help him clean out. But the United States populace is very uneducated about dogs, very uneducated. They don't understand their body language. They don't understand what they're used for. None of that stuff. And so, like you said, it's part of our job to educate them. It's just a hard way to go about doing it.
You know what the crazy thing is? I just bought a handgun. And the paperwork I had to do to buy a handgun. Everybody knows a gun is dangerous.
Yep.
Everybody knows that. But that dog can be just as dangerous as that handgun. And yet we see people, there ought to be as many regulations for most people to own a dog as there is there's people owning dogs out there. I'm way more qualified to own a handgun. Why am I filling out paperwork and you're letting you have this pit bull rescue at your house and you're letting your grandkids twist his ears and letting
their baby in a diaper climb on it.
Yeah.
And
the whole time the body language of that dog is like, get this little shithead off of me or I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
And yet they're just like, oh, look at him. You know, so that's what we're dealing with as a culture. And that goes back to a question or a topic we were talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah. And what people don't understand is that the credit for what these dogs are is to us, to human beings, and how we've bred these things and how we've changed their genetics to the point that we've used them as specialists, and that their pack mentality is what has made them is what's made them man's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how they are socialized and disciplined in a pack is through violence. People don't understand that. And so when a dog does use violence, all of a sudden it's the trainer's fault when there are 15,000 years of DNA that tells that dog that, violence is the answer. To dogs, violence is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so people don't get it. They don't understand it. And like I said, it's up to us to educate them. And I've yet to understand how to go about doing it, but I'm open to any suggestions.
One thing that we can always do is we've got to come out of our shells. We've got to stop hiding. We've got to understand we need to understand how to talk about hunting. For years and years and years, we have lost control of the narrative on hunting, and especially houndsmen, what that means. Why do you hunt? And you hear people say, my grandpa's been hunting for he hunted, my dad hunted, my great-grandpa hunted. Well, that's all great, man. Don't give up your legacy. Don't give up the heritage of it. Share that story. But that's not enough in today's day and age. They're tearing down statues all across the United States because people don't like their history. And we're trying to change history. So that's not enough. Legacy and heritage is not enough anymore. We have to understand how to articulate and talk about why we hunt and the value that provides to people and the place that this hound plays in that. When you're talking to deer hunters, they need to understand that hunting bobcats or coyotes with these hounds is crucial to you being able to enjoy what you do. You know, when we're talking to waterfowl hunters, we need to tell them that small predator control is crucial. Turkey hunters, same thing. Quail hunters. This is all part of a big plan, and it all fits into a management plan. And if we don't know how to talk about that, then we get lost in the sauce when it comes to management decisions and different things like that. But when we know how to talk about it and we know how to network and we know how to talk to these key individuals, it's no secret. Deer hunters, bird hunters, and waterfowl hunters, they get the calls when it comes to fish and wildlife management issues. And unless we network with them and talk to them and show them the value of hound hunting, then we're going to be left out in the cold.
Heath, what's it like as far as deer hunters? Because me and Chris are in the Midwest. Chris is borderline. I call anything west of the Mississippi Midwest, but you're farther east. It's a different world. The whitetail hunting culture has really, really determined where we go as a hunting culture, period. You know, everything is driven by whitetail. Is it similar out there? Do you have the big leases? Do you have the trouble with white hunters that everybody else does?
Yes and no. It seems to be because we are more southern, where we're, Appalachian. The deer hunters understand it. It's mostly the people that move in, like you said, that move in from out of area and buy that 30 or 40 acre tract, and they want to come in, and they don't understand it, don't want to hear it. But the local people, it's give and take. I don't run my dogs during deer season. Let me rephrase that. You got bow season, muzzleloading, and then rifle season. So it comes in October.
Deer season from now on is like September 1st till February.
Yeah. I mean, let's just say 3 or 4 months. So deer and rifle season, most hound hunters do not run their dogs here. Deer and rifle season. Bow season and muzzleloading season a little different. But now that they've opened up Sunday hunting, a lot of us used to hunt on Saturday nights because we knew that Sunday was a free day. So I don't know how that's going to change, but we don't have much trouble with. I mean, I can't say that we have much trouble at all with the deer hunters here. Now down east, I'm on the far western side of Virginia, where if you go 5 hours, you're down on the coast, where they do have they run deer with dogs, and they have the big timber companies or the big leases that they run on. But it seems like because they're running dogs, that they get along pretty good. If they see a bear, they'll call the bear guys and say, "Hey, come here and get this thing out of here. We don't want it here because it runs our deer off." So there seems to be a pretty good relationship with that. It was years ago, and you and I were talking earlier, back when I was coon hunting, that a lot of your diehard deer hunters did not want your hounds on their property because they thought that they were running their deer off. And then University of Kentucky put that study out, and I think Michigan maybe put another study out. And it's they showed that if the hounds aren't running deer, the deer could care less. So I started using that.
They don't.
I started using that.
They don't
study.
believe it.
When I talked to them, I'm like, "Hey, go and look at this study and look at it, and yada yada yada." So, we don't have much trouble with that here. Not much.
The problem with deer hunters is that they all need an excuse for not killing a 190-inch deer. It doesn't matter what it is; they need an excuse. It can't be I suck at hunting. They can't say that. But no, I mean.
Well,
and I'll tell you another thing. The only place you'll hear the term "down on the coast," down east, is when you live in Appalachia, because you have to go off the mountain and go down
to the flatland.
All the rest of us say out east or out west.
It's either east or west. There's east of the Mississippi, and there's to the Rockies, and that's it.
And I can add this to what you were asking, Josh. So your bear hunters hunt on national forest. So we use the bigger tracts of land that's open to the public. Your coon hunters typically try to stay out of national forest because it's such rough country. And if you've got a farm, in where I live, if you've got a farm, a 30, 40, 50 acre farm, you're going to much rather want to coon hunt here. So that divides up the dog usage some too. So it all kind of works itself out.
It's the same way here, but I'm one of the few that love the national forest.
You wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it in Virginia.
Most folks wouldn't like it in central to South Missouri either.
Yeah,
it's Ozark Mountains. It's big oak ridges and high mountains, and it's rough, and it's straight up and straight down. But I love it so much because I can
mess with people.
I can turn my dog loose in 800,000 acres.
I love.
I can drive to the middle, cut my dog loose. I have no worries.
Any way he goes,
yes. And so I prefer it. But public land, that's another issue right there, is that public land, especially in Missouri on the northern half of the side, is driven by certain types of hunting. Our public land is mostly driven towards whitetail and bobwhite quail. Now, I love the quail stuff because I'm a quail hunter, but coon hunters have zero say in how that public land's managed.
Well, that's what we're facing here in Indiana, and that was the cause of the rebirth or the revitalization, as I guess is the right word there, for the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance, is because the DNR was restricting the use of coonhounds on this public property.
I've heard that, and it's Hoosier National Forest.
Mm-hmm. Hoosier National, not so much Hoosier National as it was the state fish and wildlife areas.
Yes.
They were trying to restrict them to 100-acre dog training areas, or trying to restrict us to 100-acre
because they cater
areas.
And to the Fish and Game Department's. I'll play devil's advocate here. The deer hunters pay the bills.
Yes.
But Missouri, that's not the case. We have a sales tax. We have the greatest conservation department in the nation. I don't care what anybody says. We are funded independently by a fuel tax. Everybody pays in. Not one particular, game-driven species or whatever decides what is what. But in Indiana and Iowa and places like that, deer hunters are what pay the bills.
Well, it's management of that property and habitat. Money that goes into the habitat is largely generated by the Pittman-Robertson Fund.
Yeah.
If you really want to know who's footing the bill for that, it's your recreational shooters.
Yeah.
Because your average
everybody
hunter,
that buys ammo.
Yeah, your average hunter is going to buy. I mean, I got boxes of ammo that I've had for 10 or 15 years. My brother's a recreational shooter. Still need to teach him where that mute button is. Recreational shooters will go through the ammo that I do in a year in 2 hours at the range. So when you're talking about funding, yes, they do bring a lot of intrinsic income to a state, but the issue with Indiana is the fact that they have deer hunters have a very large voice and a powerful voice, but here's the real deal that's killing access in Indiana. It's the federal government that's putting stipulations on that PR money. They have put stipulations on the state of Indiana and other states as well, saying that the use of dogs, you've got to cut down traffic in these areas to enhance habitat and to preserve habitat. And that's the real killer, is the federal stipulation. And what they do is it's like, if you don't, then we're going to cut back on your Pittman-Robertson funds.
Yeah.
That's the killer. And I'll tell you something that scares me about your gas tax in Missouri. It may be good for the bankroll, but it also means that fur baby mama driving the Subaru has a say in what you're doing with fish and wildlife habitat and fish and wildlife management in the state of Missouri, and that scares me.
We've been lucky so far in that the Conservation Commission has been fairly as bipartisan as you can get with the bureaucracy of government. Their Conservation Commission is pretty diverse, but we see the signs where the Conservation Commission is going to be more urban, and they're not going to understand our lifestyle and things like that. But and people get mad at the MDC biologists or any game commission biologists. The biologists are the ones that we really need to trust. They're just scientists.
Yeah, and they're just putting data.
Yes, it's just
they don't have a feeling.
Right. And so I'm pro biologist. I'm pro MDC. So far, so good. We have plenty of public land to the point that nobody hunts it, despite the fact that it's fantastic raccoon hunting, because we can't drive to every tree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the only reason that nobody hunts it. And that's the Mark Twain National Forest, of course, is not MDC, but the MDC does a really good job of maintaining and keeping open public lands for us to have that opportunity. Whether that's going to stay that way, I don't know. We have to be vigilant when it comes to that.
You talk about, and I know the truth is largely a coon hunting podcast, and I'm just bringing these up to show people and get them thinking, our coon hunters thinking about what is coming and what is happening. Texas is looking at a management study and a management plan for mountain lions. Right now in Texas, mountain lions are unregulated. The ranchers have kept that thing going for years. It's like, we don't want mountain lions here. We don't want them preying on our stock, blah, blah, blah. But now Texas has just released that they're going to start a management study with plans of making a management plan by 2025. And this is the thing that got my attention. They said, we are going to put together a focus group, and it's going to involve members of the ranching community, ag, hunters, and they call them those stakeholder groups, and animal welfare groups.
No houndsman.
Which means...
No.
Well, they talked about hounds, or they talked about hunters. But the thing that really scared me is why all of a sudden is animal welfare group a stakeholder? They haven't contributed anything to wildlife management over the years. And when you look at these groups, like the Humane Society of the United States, Center for Biological Diversity, all these other groups that are out there getting in our way and trying to strip us of our freedoms, the amount of money that they've contributed is minuscule compared to the amount of dollars, the $6 billion a year industry of the hunting industry.
I've always said that hunters are the biggest conservationists. And Heath, you'll understand when I say, because I'm not in bear country. I have to go quite a few miles before I hit bears from where I live. But as a bear hunter, you don't want to see less bears. You don't want to see a population that's on the decline. You want to have bears for your hounds to run. You want to have a stable, healthy population to where you know that your grandkids can do this and your great grandkids and things like that. And these people focus on more of the individual bear. What was that bear that walked on its hind legs?
Oh, West Virginia.
Yeah, wherever that thing was. Or that bear that made it from Minnesota or Michigan or whatever, all the way down to Arkansas, and people followed it through Iowa or whatever.
Yeah.
They love that bear. They don't care about black bears as a whole. They love that bear. Right. Where houndsmen like Heath are more concerned about the species. Hunters are the greatest conservationists.
Yeah, I mean, we have to we have to take care of the population. And you're right. We want to see them healthy. For me, I don't have to tree 2 or 3 bear a day. That's not me. I can take my dogs out. If I tree a bear a day, I'd like to tree one every day, but if I'm hitting every other day or whatever, I'm happy. But yeah, we try very hard to pick and choose what we take. And we're going to try to do better this year with some things that we've read, some research that we've looked at. But that's just us. That's just our small group. You've got a lot of bear hunters in this area, and unfortunately, everybody doesn't look at it through the same eyes.
If I was hunting walkers, I'd be happy to catch a bear every other day too.
If he was hunting plots, he'd be happy to catch a bear a year.
Hey, his catch numbers go way up on a daily average when the plots come to town.
That's just because he's saving the good spots for you.
Yeah. We're keeping the ones for you tied up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you how it goes. You get to the top of the trail, and he's like, "Oh, you go ahead and walk those trashy things down there through that trail," and they disappear for the rest of the day. I mean, it's like they're going off on their own little. Is
that a discount to your hounds, or is that a discount to you, Chris? Maybe
well,
they just don't want to hang out with you.
That's probably both. Probably both. Yeah, yeah.
But you look at the guys I hunt with in Wisconsin. We treed 1, 2, 3, 4 bears last year, and I was there for 3 days, and we never shot a single one.
Right.
There were tag holders in our group, in our party. I don't care to see a bear die. That has no bearing, absolutely zero bearing in why I wanted to go bear hunting. I wanted to see the dogs work, just like you guys do, just like most houndsmen do. They want to see the dog work. They want to have a good experience with their dogs, chasing the game of their choice. But we never took a single bear. I never seen a single bear hit the ground. I had a fantastic time. And if they did, they did. If they didn't, they didn't. But every bear we treated was a juvenile bear or a female. And so we just never took one. Never took one.
To add some perspective to that, Josh, last year, the plots were at 36 bear trees. Mm-hmm. And out of those 36 trees, we shot 1 bear last year. I'm not saying that's always a good thing, for the population, but the reason that happened was because these hunters were being selective and they were self-regulating and they were looking up there, just like you said, juvenile, it was a female, whatever it was, there was a reason why that bear was not harvested. So again, we talk about hunters being the greatest conservationists. Houndsmen are even more so because we can examine what we've caught. And it's just like catch and release fishing. We can say yes or we can say no.
Yeah.
And
that's the only catch and release style of hunting.
Yep.
That's it. Yep. That's all there is. And I remember it was years ago, Chris, when I put that video up of Ranella had posted a video on Instagram for Meat Eater about and it was hounds treat on a mountain lion. And these are big game hunters, upland hunters, everything, and they lost their mind about how cruel that was. Look how scared this mountain lion is. Look how it's cheating, and you guys know just as well as I do how hard it is to actually tree the game that we're hunting and get the dog ready to where it is. But most folks don't understand that, and right. So you look at those posts and it's disheartening at first, but a part of our being here is to educate those people about how difficult it is, how it's a conservation plus and not a minus. We can actually, if a great big bear walks out in front of a bow hunter, they don't always have time to see if this is a female or not.
They don't even know that it's a big bear.
Yes, they don't have the cubs. They don't see the cubs that are 100 yards behind this bear. They see a big cat, it may be shoot first, ask questions later, but we have the opportunity through our hounds, to be able to regulate those things and limit the animals that we take, and an accurate quota, an accurate sex ratio of animals treated, animals taken, etc. And so conservation is always important, but people don't understand that. How on earth do we go about expressing that?
Well, back to the plot dogs. Are you going? Are you going to plot days, Chris?
I need to.
Josh, I didn't figure you would.
Yeah, because I want to see a plot that will actually tree something.
Good luck.
But I think it's this coming weekend, Chris. Yeah.
Is it really?
The 17th. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
How close are you?
Have I told you guys about the only good plot I have with?
But I'd love to hear a good story.
Pete Swihart was a man.
This is the truth. Remember that.
This is the truth. I will say nothing but. Pete Swihart is from Glenwood, Iowa. Great man, great houndsman. And when I was 20 years old, I hunted dogs for him. He would start them on coons, and then he would take them up to Wisconsin bear hunting. He had red bones and plots. That's all I hunted for him. I would take 2 pups a month from him and 2 pups a month from another client. And so I would hunt these dogs. I'd hunt them as hard as I could possibly hunt them. And he called me one day and said, "Hey, I got a plot." He's a 6-year-old male. I'd never yet to these days drew a plot in a hunt. I'd never turned one loose, never seen one go hunt. And so I said, "Yeah, that's fine. You know, I'll come get him. We'll work it out." So he sends me the 6-year-old plot male. And this is a coon treeing machine. This dog was good. For the life of me, I can't remember his name. But anyway, I had a 3-year-old blue tick. Yes, Chris, I had a blue tick.
Times were hard, weren't they?
A good one. Times are tough back when I was 20 years old and I didn't have the money. But I had this plot, and he said, "Turn him loose, shoot him a few coons, get him in good shape." This is September. We got bear season coming up, and I believe it was October. He was going to Wisconsin. He wanted me to hunt him for 30 days. I said, "No problem, I'll do it." And so I turned this dog loose by himself, and he trees multiple raccoons. Good coon dog, very good coon dog. And I'm pouring coons out to him, and I'm hunting walker dogs for another guy, Tom Cooney, out in Nebraska. And he's sending me pups out of his stud dog. And so I thought, well, there's no sense of wearing Smoke, which is my old dog, out. I said, I'll turn him loose with this plot. And so after I'd hunted this plot for 2 or 3 nights, I decided to take these pups with him. And so I turned the plot loose, let him get treed. I had another dog that would cover bad, and he was a good coon dog, but I thought, well, I'll turn him loose into this plot, and, you know, I'll go in there and I'll try to get him fixed, and we'll send him on. And so I turned the plot loose. He gets struck right in front of me. I turned the walker dog loose right behind him. The walker dog, I cut loose right as the plot locates, and he opens on the same track that the plot's running, and the plot had already treed. And as this walker dog gets within about 75 yards of this plot, he's actually being deaf. He's doing the right thing. He's running this track like he's supposed to. This plot leaves the tree, goes and attacks the walker dog, and I have the biggest dog fight I've ever seen in my life in the middle of the woods. This plot was the meanest thing I have ever laid eyes on. And I told Pete, I said, "Listen, you can't turn this dog loose in a bear pack." I said, he's poison. I said, "This dog's mean as a snake." He said, "Well, they told me he was a little rough, but, you know, I think he'll be all right." I said, "No, don't do that." And so after I'd hunted this dog for 30 days, I hunted him by himself after that. Good coon dog. Very good coon dog. The only good plot I've seen as far as just treeing raccoons. And Pete called me about 2 weeks after bear season opened and said that he's not allowed at bear camp anymore. He said that dog liked to wipe out an entire bear pack as soon as he turned him loose. But that is my plot experience. That's the only good plot I've hunted with. But he was a coon treeing machine, and he would probably do well at the Pro Classics.
I think your plot experience is about as deep as your bear hunting experience.
It may be. It may be. That, like I said, that was the only one.
I'll tell you, man. It's funny how stigmas can get hold. You know, it goes back to that tribalism we started talking about in the beginning. Blue ticks are slow, plots are mean, walkers are slick, treeing fools.
Yep.
You know, and I think we brought it full circle.
Well, I think that the way plots are used, especially what percentage of plots are used in a big game pack?
A lot.
You know, most of them. I would say more than 50%.
Oh,
so they have to have good tree manners.
Yeah.
To be in that situation.
You turn a pack of dogs loose, I don't care what color they are.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be treed in there for anywhere from an hour to 12 hours, you know, before you can get to them in some of the places in Idaho.
I think that stigma was placed on plots just because they were a bear dog and they had to be gritty.
Plot Hunter started that so you freaking Walker guys wouldn't come and hunt with us and blow up every race.
You ain't got to worry
It's
about
like,
that.
I ain't going with that plot. We started that.
Heath, what are your views? You're over there groaning. I want to hear what you think about it.
He has hunted plots. Don't let him fool you.
He ain't got none now though, does he?
An old Jack that he cried about on Christmas Eve was a blue tip.
I had one really good plot, my old female. I always kind of chased her and never could find something that was as good as her. I've had several good blue dogs. I bought dogs from Dale Cameron, and a guy had a conversation Thursday, and he said the same thing, that when Dale was alive, he got some really good dogs from Dale. But right now, I'm hunting mixed up stuff, and it is what it is. But y'all's talking about, it's kind of funny how, like, I've had more trouble at trees with English dogs, not the plots, not the walkers, blue ticks, black and tans. My experience,
it's because they talk
has
funny.
Been English. Like the English dogs has what I've had the most trouble with, and what I've had experience with.
Oh, I've said this before, but most of the dogs hunting in the level that I'm hunting at are pretty mean. When you get that independence and you get that tree jealousy, they're not, because you never see it.
Yeah,
but you take, I bet you 8 out of 10 of these dogs competing in pro sport or these pro classics are not going to tolerate a dog coming into them at their tree. They're just not going to tolerate it. And so you don't have any fights because the other 3 dogs that they're turned loose with are the same way, and they don't want to be with dogs either. And so, I think in 2 pro sport hunts, I've never seen a dog at the same tree. And multiple pro classics, you rarely see a dog at the same tree.
That sounds like a good topic for the next episode of The Truth.
Yeah, we should get into that.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into that topic.
Josh, don't you have a litter of pups on the way or getting ready to?
I got one coming. They're due September 3rd.
Excited about those?
I'm very excited because I've been 3 years in between pups, 2 years in between pups, litters of pups that I've raised, and I haven't found anything that I liked in between. And I've decided that I've got to raise them and hunt them and do what I'm supposed to do with them, or I'm not going to like them.
Yeah,
anyway. But
go ahead.
It's a good female. It's a good male. We're excited about the cross, and I think they're going to be all right. But just like I do, you never know.
Me and Wesley had a conversation this evening. I've been through a pile of pups over the last 2 years, and I don't have any of them. Now, the pups that I've raised this last litter, I've got high hopes. I actually took one into a tree with me today. I kept 3, and I took one into a tree with me today. But you still don't know. Like you just don't know. They're going to be able to do all the things that I want them to do. But yeah, I seen you had posted that, and I was just kind of curious. So,
we've bought dog, and I'm not a big dog buyer. I'm not a big dog. I want to raise them from birth until hunting age, and that seems like the best bet for me. It's not for everybody. I realize that, but I haven't had any luck. Me and Finley are lucky in that we like the same style of dogs, and that's why we're pretty good together. But man, I tell you what, we bought Hazel. She's getting ready to have these pups, but she was an absolute diamond in the rough. It's hard to find a dog that suits you that you didn't raise yourself. Yeah. And so I'm excited to finally raise one myself again. That's how I've made my living and all that stuff. And Jed the same way. Everything that he hunts is out of his stock, and everything that I hunt is out of either his or my stock. And so we're glad to get back to that.
Good deal. Well, hey, before we sign off, I just kind of recap. I want to make an appeal to coon hunters. Don't be thinking that you're safe. You're not.
Yeah.
The anti-hunting crowd is coming after, you in ways that you don't even realize. You know, it's breeding bills, it's tethering bills, it's housing bills, it's bring your dog in if it's below 32 degrees. It's, you know, I've known coon hunters that have been traveling across the country that had the officials called on them, the law called on them for, you know, having dogs in dog boxes overnight in motel parking lots. You've got to get involved. And a lot of times I feel like that a lot of these coon hunters, myself included, you know, I'm still a coon hunter. We cannot be so caught up in running to the next hunt that we lose sight that there is not going to be the next hunt if you don't get involved now. The time is now. There's never been a more urgent time to get involved and pay attention to what's going on. Slow down, see where you can help.
What, before we sign off, I've talked about the Missouri Sporting Dog Alliance, the Kansas Houndsman Federation. We've talked about the Hoosier Tree Dog Alliance. What other organizations are there out there that we can really key on to be a part of?
Heath, you got a good one?
I mean, we've got the Virginia Bear Hunter Association if you do big game, and then we have the
not just if you do big game, if you do anything.
Yeah. Virginia's got a
alliance.
Yeah,
alliance. That's a good one to get in. Yeah. I think if you get on anything that is dog related, any hound alliance, any tree dog association, anything like that you can get, there's going to be one somewhere close to you. You just may have to do a little research and find out where it's at, but you should be able to get a hold of something in your area that you can start participating in.
Yeah.
The houndsmen in these states know what their state organization is, and I know there's a lot of people that have become disenchanted because maybe they saw mishandling of issues and maybe money or whatever. Well, man, you got to be the one to step in and get involved. You've got to be the change that you want to see. And sitting back and griping about it isn't going to get it done. And every one of these organizations is looking for help. Everyone. So before you make that next social media post about, I'd never joined that, make sure you're picking up the phone and offering to help. And there's some organizations out there that don't want your help because it's a good old boys club and they want to keep it that way. Well, then it's time to start looking at either taking it over and getting involved and pointing in the right direction or something like that. But it can help happen if you don't get involved. Well,
and you and I talked about it before, but just to put it out there again, joining an organization is one thing. You got to show up. You don't have a voice if you don't show up. You can pay those dues and be a member, but you need to be an active participating member is what you need to be doing. So show up.
Yeah. And
we're not proactive enough.
Nope.
And it's not going to take a lot of your time. I mean, they need somebody to flip burgers at one event. They need somebody that can help clean up after one event. It's not like you got to plan events or sit on a board or whatever. It can be something. Maybe they just need you to go around and put posters up of "Don't shoot my dog" at every sporting goods store and gas station in your region. That is something that you can do. And, it doesn't take that much time. And if everybody does a little bit, that's a lot.
Heath, while I got you on here, I want to talk about bite training.
All right.
All right. So I've got Bogan. And the reason I got Bogan was because I wanted to start with a healer because I felt like they had the right genetic mindset to what I wanted to do as a protection dog. But if I couldn't control them, they weren't going to kill nobody. And so he's 15 months old now. His basic obedience is pretty solid. He's going to heel when I tell him to heel. He's going to heel on whatever side of me I want him to be on. He's going to watch whatever I want him to watch. If I want him to guard a truck, if I put him in the front of the truck, he's going to be fine. I have a bite guard for actually my son, God bless him, has been bitten by this dog more than I can think of. But I want to know that when I tell this dog that he's done, that he can be done. Now, so far I've used the e-collar, pretty good success. I tell him clear. but I'm having to push that button every time we're going through bite training. And so if I don't have that button and I say that dog's done, what am I doing wrong? I know I'm doing something wrong because this is my first protection dog. He's really good at if I sick him on anything, he's going to bite it. And he's very gritty. He's going to keep hold of it until I tell him not to. But when I tell him not to, I'm going to have to push that button or he's not going to quit.
So I got to go back to the foundation. Before you started pushing the button, how was you getting, let's just use a toy. How was you getting a toy? How was you getting, when you first started telling him to bite, like, I mean, I've got my cone right here. Like this is the first thing my dog starts biting.
Yep.
So what did you use to start the bite, and what action or how are you getting him to get away from it?
I was using a bite guard, an arm bite guard on a stick and string. And I was holding it out in front of me. I was heeling him in between my legs. I would give him his bite command. He would launch, bite, and I would have to physically get that dog, open his mouth, and remove him until I started using the e-collar.
Okay. So there was nothing in between.
There was really nothing in between.
So if that bite, whatever you're using that bite guard,
he's extremely frustrated with you.
I believe it. And like I said, I'm a rookie. I'm open to any suggestions.
It's fixable. You got to get something with lesser value. Knowing a blue heeler, if it was me, I would probably get a piece of like 1.5 inch PVC pipe, about 6 or 8 inches long, and let him bite that, and then you hold it still, you clamp down on it, and whatever his out command is, I don't know, like, mine, clear. So when you have to hold it, and you can't let him play with it, because if he puts that thing in motion, then it's the game's on. So you have to hold it. Sometimes I'll lock it down on my knees and hold it really tight. And then when you see that mouth doing this, clear, he comes out, and then you tell him to bite it right again. So whatever your bite is, bite it again and just kind of repeat that. If that doesn't work, do you have a slip lead by chance? Okay.
I do.
So slip lead. Put the slip lead over him. Make sure that it comes right here so when you pull. So you put him on that PVC pipe.
Right under his
chin.
chin.
The reason we're using PVC pipe because it's hard and they can't crunch it. So it has less value. So put that on him. Have your son or whoever stand behind you. And when you say clear, he pulls that string. So it pinches here. And then he'll spit it. And when he spits it, as soon as he spits it, give it right back to him. So you're just telling him, you're just pairing this word with the out or clear. And then as he learns, as he gets to where you don't have to put that slip collar on him or lead, as he gets where you say clear and he comes off, then you make him wait. Clear, sit. Yes, you can have it. Does that make sense?
That does make perfect sense. And I understand. Another question I had is, how do I get this dog? Because I'm having a hard time getting strangers to get bit by this dog. How do I get him? How do I get him from not targeting my son, first of all, who has been 75% of his training, versus I can't get another stranger over here to put a bite guard on.
What is a bite guard? I don't know exactly what you're saying.
I'm just an arm guard.
A jute sleeve?
Yes.
Jute sleeve?
Yes.
Okay,
sleeve.
Well, first of all, take your son out of the picture, because he knows that he gets to play with him now. That's fun and games.
Yes,
so,
boom,
I'm coming to you every time because I get to play.
Yeah, but I can't find anybody else to put it on and get bit by this dog.
I mean, that should be really simple. I don't know.
You would think, but I'm thinking, hey, buddy, come over here. Put this thing on your arm, and I'm going to send my dog after you, and he's going to bite you.
And I'll cook you a steak and
buy him a beer or something.
and yeah, a really good bourbon, whatever. But everybody says, no, I'm good.
You can take your son out of the picture and you can use that bite sleeve or whatever you're using, the bite guard.
Yeah.
You can put it on to objects. You can actually take your broom handle and fix you a thing where you can stick it out. You could be doing obedience around the dog, have him at a down, and then boom, boom, get it. And that way it takes the human out of it for you guys.
I've done that in the past, but what if I have to send this dog on a human and he doesn't see that?
Yes.
You know, as it's not on, you know, whatever.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. At that point of training, you're going to have somebody like be the decoy. Somebody's going to have to be. When you take these dog food, say, hey, I'm going to give you dog food, but you got to get a bite. You got to take a bite.
There you go. Yeah. I might, and I've actually tried that in the past. They've all said no.
Oh man, I mean that would actually
keep your dog
I would
food.
take a bite off a healer any day over 100-pound shepherd.
Yeah, that's what I said too. You know, the reason I started with the healer is because they have the same. They kind of have the same genetic personality, and then actually he's barking right now. Someone's pulling up in my driveway, but they have that same mindset. But they're not as large, and they're not as
So my
intimidating.
buddy had a blue heeler that he taught to bite, but he used the healer's natural ability to bite the leg. So he had him hitting the lower leg between the knee and the.
Yeah, he does. He has that, but I've taken that away with. I'm trying to focus him. When we first started him, we started with the decoy up to where he had to jump at it, to where he had to get, you know, in the air a little bit, or he had to raise up instead of taking that healer instinct away from him.
Do you have a way to back tie him? Do you have a harness or something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he wears a harness. Anytime we're doing work, he's in a harness.
In drive, right.
Yes, he's always in a harness. When I put that harness on him, he knows it's time to go to work.
When you're doing your outwork, put him on the harness, back tie him, so he has an apex. He can't come past that apex. And when you're working that out with him, you can pull that lead like that. You can pull your lead tight, and it gives you a little bit more control over the out instead of having him trying to run around your legs and in your legs and doing everything else. So, yeah. I mean, come to Virginia, I'll catch him.
I'm going to do that. We're going to do that. He's getting ready to bite somebody that's walking in my door now. It's probably Finley. I hope he just gets him by the leg and just really eats him up.
Make Finley take a bite from him.
He needs to, but he won't. He babysits him even sometimes, but he won't let him bite him.
Well, and one of the things the Europeans taught me, so when I started...
Hold on just one second. Boom! Tonight.
Hey, you see that?
All right, go ahead, Heath.
You see that little microphone thing down there? That's a mute button.
Well, sometimes Bogan needs to shut his mouth.
The Europeans taught me that when I throw the toy, boom, I tell my dog the bite command, which is for me, it's stellar.
I do that too.
Everything you want him to bite.
I'm not going to say my bite.
Yeah, everything you want him to bite, that's what you tell him that word. So.
Yep. And he loves to retrieve, so I do that with him too. It's not a bumper, but it's a Kong, just like yours, or a similar toy where I'll heel him up, I'll throw it. He's not allowed to go get that thing unless I give him the bite command.
Yep, good. No, you're doing good. Yeah. Like I said, come Virginia, we'll catch him.
All right, we're gonna do that. I want to do that anyway. I'm gonna come out there and go bear hunting. I'm gonna get Powell with his junk ass plots, and we're gonna come out there one of these days.
You'll be amazed.
I might be. Do we got anything else, fellas?
I was gonna say something, but I can't. Oh,
all time.
I was gonna tell you.
Yeah, there you go.
Anybody that's not listening to The Journey on Wednesdays, what you heard from Heath Hyatt right there, you're going to get that. Plus, you're going to get how he ties it back into those things that apply to your hounds.
Yeah.
All those training concepts are totally transferable. And if we're looking in our own echo chamber to develop better hounds and train our hounds better, we're never getting anywhere. So that's why we call it The Journey. That's why Heath chose, that concept, because, man, there's so many things we can learn from other dog trainers and breeders and make our own interests and passions better. So there you go. There's your plug, Heath.
Glad to have you back, Josh. Like I said,
I'm glad to be here.
To Virginia. We will fix that in a day.
I need to. I want to. I want to see Heath give me some pointers of someone, because part of what I preach is humility and knowing that you don't.
That's right.
And so, I've never trained a protection dog. He does all the time. But you have to realize that there are people that are better at this than you are. And Heath is one of those guys, especially as the protection guys or protection dogs come.
Hounds not so sure. But bite work, I got you. I got you covered.
There you go. And I always have said, find someone that knows more than you do and do what they do.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming, guys.
For having us.
Yeah, you bet.
This is The Truth on the Houndsman XP Podcast Network. And like I said, we really appreciate Chris and Heath coming on here. We're going to try to make this a fairly regular occurrence. I hope you guys keep listening, and we'll see you next time.